You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 226, Secondary Gains After a Breakup. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, breakup coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, my beautiful Bravehearts. How is everyone doing? I love you so much, and I am very excited to talk to you today about secondary grief or secondary loss and secondary gains. But before we do, I want to make sure that you do not forget you have to come hang out with me for Valentine's Day week. It is going to be epic. February 12th through February 15th, which is next week, I am hosting a completely free 5-day How to Get Over Your Ex training. It's going to be all about, of course, getting over your ex, but even more importantly, building your bigger and better life. It is going to be absolutely amazing. You will accomplish 5 months of healing in just 5 days. It's going to be epic. You will literally leave a changed human being. I am so excited to see these 5-day transformations. I'm going to be your coach for 5 whole days, y'all. And each day you're going to be provided with a lesson, kind of like this podcast, except I'm going to be teaching it live. Then you'll be shown exactly how to take that lesson and apply it to your breakup situation, which is the most important piece, right? I'm then going to give you homework and provide you with feedback on that homework. And of course, we are going to smash it with some coaching. Coaching is the way to get the biggest transformations. So it's that application and coaching that really changes everything, right? It's one thing to passively listen to it here on the podcast, but it's a whole new ball game when you're actively applying this work and learning how to take it and apply it to your life, pen to paper. So I am so excited. We're also going to make this as fun as possible. So I'll be rewarding individuals based off of engagement, and we're going to be doing a giveaway where I'll be giving away some of my favorite breakup tools and resources. It's going to be so fun. I cannot wait to spend the entire week with all of you. We will be meeting from noon to 1 p.m. Central Time each day. And if you can't make it live, I know some of you are in a different country. Some of you have to work during the day. That is totally fine. Please still come join us. You can always catch the replay and still submit your homework and be eligible for the giveaway. So you have to come join us. You have no reason not to. You can sign up at www.dorothyabjohnson.com/5-day live training. The 5 is the actual number 5-day live training. So we'll go ahead and we'll be sure to link that in the show notes for you. But you guys, I haven't hung out with all of you in this way in so long. I am so jazzed and so energized and excited to see all of you, for real, just meeting humans. So it's going to be epic. Now, today, actually, I just want to preface this whole episode with, I have been deep diving in grief lately. I personally went through a whole year of just maneuvering through my own grief in 2023. And then I've been really just taking that and amplifying it in so many ways. How can I learn more about grief? How can I get better at this? How can I help more people with this concept in a variety of ways? So I'm in an advanced grief certification with one of my favorite coaches, Krista St. Germain. She helps widowed moms. She's been on the podcast before. As well as I've been volunteering at this place called the Valerie House, which is really all about peer-to-peer support for children. And so I of course could have done multiple trainings with them with grief and all of this work. It's just been so fulfilling. So I really love the topic. I really love discussing it. I really love helping people through it. And something that's been one of my favorite parts of this certification so far is just becoming aware of how well-rounded grief is. Grief isn't just in the realm of bereavement or someone actually dying. It is in almost everything we do, which is kind of wild to think about. I mean, it comes up in breakups and heartbreaks and job loss. It comes up in so many ways, and the world is just unbelievably not prepared for it. And I love being able to help all of us get better at it, not only for ourselves, but also for the people that we surround ourselves with, right? And what's been fascinating is that there's so many forms of grief. There's so many forms of grief. And I'm going to be talking a lot about these different forms on the podcast coming up. But one of them that's really extremely relevant to breakups and divorce that I've coached, so many individuals on is secondary loss. And what is secondary loss, and why is it important to know about when you're going through a breakup? And in a breakup or divorce, you have grief over the actual loss of the relationship, right? The person that you thought you were going to spend the rest of your life with. But there are also so many other losses within that one loss that affect us, like your kid's graduation, where you were supposed to be there as a family. That would be considered a secondary loss. Or the loss of a friend group because you can no longer hang out with those friends because they're always with your ex. The loss of your ex's family, that support system that you might have used to have, right? Secondary loss can really be defined as subsequent losses resulting from a primary loss, such as loss of identity, financial stability, or social networks, okay? Multiple secondary losses that you might be experiencing. And what's fascinating is sometimes the secondary losses almost hit heavier than the loss itself, which is a whole other concept. But I think it's very interesting to look at when I'm coaching people. Sometimes individuals are like, I feel like I've processed the pain of losing my partner. I didn't actually want to even be with this person, so I feel complete in that. However, I'm really struggling with the fact that I don't have that teammate to help me around the house anymore. And that would be considered a secondary loss. And we've got to go through experiencing and processing that. Now, when I was working at the Valerie House, going through training with them, one of the examples that they were giving was about, a child. They work with children who lose their parents from a variety of things, meaning their parent has died or a loved one close to them. And the example that they give was, let's say the child loses a parent. Of course, they're grieving the actual parent who died, but let's say that parent used to be the primary caretaker of that child, the one that cooked and cleaned for them. And then the other parent then has to, one, learn how to step up. Maybe that parent is grieving in their own way, doesn't even want to be in the house. So they eat out more often than they actually eat in the house. And then the child is dealing with a secondary loss of not being able to eat in the home or experience a home-cooked meal or being, in the home for those family meals. And that used to be something that used to be a solid core part of their life and a structure that has now been, removed. And so they've got the loss of the parent, but they've also had that secondary loss of that experience. Now, in breakups and divorce, we see this in a variety of ways. I've already given you a couple of examples. But I think it's really fascinating just exploring all of these different examples with my clients. And the reason I'm telling you about secondary losses is because as soon as I was done on one of my grief coaching advanced certification calls where secondary loss was a primary conversation, I went to my Get Over Your Ex program call where I was coaching my clients. And what was fascinating was that my clients began talking about the opportunities that they have because of the breakup. And we began discussing and coaching on all of what I was now realizing as secondary gains that we have because of the breakup. And it's happened so often inside of the Get Over Your Ex program where a Braveheart will light up and be like, oh my God, I just realized that because I'm no longer with this person, I get to get married. That was never an option with my ex. Or I get to find an amazing dad for my children because he wasn't that. And he never was that family dynamic kind of guy. And now that I'm not in this relationship anymore, I get to choose that in my next partnership. Or because I'm no longer with this person, I get to say yes to that retreat and I wanted to go on, or I wanted to go on this amazing travel adventure with my bestie and I can say yes easily, or yes to the job that I wanted to take that he was so against. And I never really differentiated between those opportunities. I have a whole episode about all of the opportunities that you experience in your breakup. But what I'm noticing is some of those examples, some of those I would kind of consider primary gains from the relationship, meaning, or from the breakup, meaning I now get to get married, which was no longer an option with my ex. I get to choose a partner who has these different qualities. I would say that's a primary gain. But then thinking about all of these secondary gains that are really exciting to think about is I get to choose a job that I want to do. I get to go on a vacation that I've been begging him to take me on that now I get to go do, and I get to do it with someone who's excited about it. I get to participate in more of these activities that were never really his thing and we didn't have time for. Sometimes we forget about that. And I just found it so fascinating in terms of how similar it looked to secondary grief. Now, secondary grief or secondary loss is one end of the pendulum, right? And we run into those things with your breakup, but we have to take a moment and look at that other end of the pendulum at some point to also look at those secondary gains that we have because of the breakup or the divorce. Now, I do want you to remember that we are not negating the secondary losses. They happened, or they are happening, and they are real, and they should be acknowledged and processed. And I just think it's helpful to begin to look at and explore the secondary gains once you've allowed yourself to really process the grief, loss, and sadness and pain. And an example of this I found is with my miscarriage. I was processing the grief of the actual loss of the baby, and then came the secondary losses, like Christmas without the baby, the planned future, the effects on my relationship, the effects on my body, the effects on my finances. My body is still not the same. It never will be the same. And the effects of my finances, it cost me around $10,000 to have a miscarriage here in the United States. And there were also, like, saying all of that, again, after exploring secondary loss, like, of course, that makes all kinds of sense. And I had to grieve all of that. I grieved the loss of my baby. I grieved the loss of, my previous body, my previous finances, and my previous relationship, and the planned future visions that I had. And at the same time, or not at the same time, a while after that was when I could really take a moment and look at what are the secondary gains from my miscarriage. And I think this could be jarring to hear for anyone, or just kind of, what's the word? Like, some people might not be in the place to hear that yet, and it's totally fine, and you don't have to be. But I did start and begin to look at the secondary gains of my miscarriage, and it changed my whole life. It changed everything for me. It helped me realize how great life could be, even if I never had a child. And I could show up as a mom in a lot of ways. I coach figure skating to 5 and 6-year-olds. I'm, integrating myself in with the Valerie House, helping children process grief. I'm hanging out with my friends who have children and, being there for them in ways that I never thought I would be able to be. And I feel very fulfilled in all of that. I also have more time to plan. I got to reevaluate my life after the miscarriage. I got to reevaluate my desire to have children. Was it that I just wanted to be pregnant? Was it that I just wanted to actually have children? Do I want to have children by myself? It gave me a lot of space to do that. There are many pros to not having children, and right, like I get to sleep in until 8 a.m. I get to travel whenever and wherever. My life comes first, not my child's. And it was just a fascinating thing to explore. So in all of the secondary losses, I was also realizing all of these secondary gains throughout that experience. I found a way of really loving my child-free life and really cherishing it and questioning, do I even really want children? And listen, this is a big caveat that I want to say, is that I do believe that there is a time and a place for looking at secondary gains. You cannot force it on yourself or someone else. I tried to. I tried to force myself into looking at, how this happened for me and not to me. And if you haven't really felt the feelings or processed your emotions around the main loss and some of your secondary losses, exploring secondary gains might feel inauthentic and it might feel like you're lying to yourself. And I just want you to pause there and have I really explored and felt my feelings? The work I do with my clients always starts with experiencing and moving through discomfort and pain and loss in a very new and powerful way that allows you to move through those emotions. And then from that clean, almost calm or peaceful place is when I find my clients really beginning to explore secondary gains. So if you're in the midst of primary or secondary loss and it doesn't feel good to you to explore secondary gains, don't. Okay? Now, here's what I want you to do today if you are in this place of wanting to explore these secondary gains in your breakup or divorce experience. Number one, I want you to acknowledge any of the secondary loss you're experiencing. And honestly, if you are in the midst of the loss right now, you could do step one, even is just like acknowledging and giving yourself some space to see what are the secondary losses that I've experienced from this breakup or this divorce. Like, of course, I'm not only grieving the loss of my partner, I'm also grieving the idea of the family I thought we'd have, the financial security that you were maybe used to, the extra help around the home, the support from his family or her family, the support of the friend group, right? Step two is when you've allowed yourself to process that secondary loss, and if you're struggling to process grief, I highly recommend the Grief Bubble episode, which is episode 22 at the very beginning. I give you exact steps on how to process an emotion. So when you've really allowed yourself to process that secondary loss, begin to explore your secondary gains. What are the opportunities that are now available to you that perhaps weren't available to you when you were in the relationship? Not only maybe where they weren't or they were available, but I also want you to think about what are the opportunities I have now that will be easier because I'm not in the relationship anymore. And I want you to give yourself some space and time, just 10, 15 minutes to take pen to paper and really to explore these and acknowledge them and learn from them. And of course, we will be working on these in our live 5-day How to Get Over Your Ex training during Valentine's Day week. It's not just about getting over your ex. It's about having and building the bigger and better life, which includes all of those secondaries that we've talked about today. So I am so excited to meet you inside. You can sign up and save your spot now. Do not wait. I love you so much, Braveheart. I want you to keep going. Keep your head up. Getting over your ex is just a moment away. And let's do this. If you're wanting to completely change the entire trajectory of your breakup, let's go. Come with me. You can sign up at dorothyabjohnson.com/5-day live training. And that's like the number 5. Don't spell out 5, but it's the number 5. So again, it's Dorothy, A as in apple, B as in boy, Johnson.com/5, the number, day, DAYLIVE, training, TRAINING. And I'll go ahead and drop that in the show notes for you. But I seriously cannot wait to spend 5 whole days with you. We are going to shift everything for you. I'm ready to see you build a life that is so much bigger and so much better than the one that you had with your ex. Not only to show your ex, that's awesome, that's fun, but more importantly, to show yourself that you can and will do this. Let's fucking go. I cannot wait. I love you. Can't wait to meet you inside. Eek! I'll see you soon.